Good morning, Prep 4. Well done for making it to week 2 of your home learning. This video is for week 2 maths, the Monday, so the first lesson. And like last week, I will just be going through the learning reminders for maths. I might try and see if I can get better at videos this week, hopefully, for your sake I do. So for today's lesson, we are looking at fraction sequences, and that is continuing your learning from your fraction work from last week. So the first of the learning reminders, we have a number line, starts at 0, ends at 5. And on this number line, you are being asked to count up in thirds. Okay, so there are 3 equal parts between each whole number. And you can see some of the red markers have been drawn on for you. The first one is 2/3 because it is 1, 2 thirds along the number line between 0 and 1. This marker is pointing to 1 and 2/3 because we are past the whole number of 1 and we have jumped 1 2/3. This one is 2 and 1/3. Let's see if we can work out what these two might be. Now this arrow, I know it's going to be 3 and something because it is after the third whole number. So I'm going to write 3 and then I'm going to see how many thirds along it is going to be. 1, 2. So it's 3 and 2/3. What do you think this one might be? Give you a couple of seconds. Hopefully you will have got 4 and 1/3. The next number line is looking at going up in quarters. So you can see along the bottom here, there are 2 points that have been written on, 2 quarters and 1 and 2 quarters. Now it says here, what's another way of saying 2 quarters? We know from our work last week that 2 quarters is equivalent to 1/2, and where we can, we always try and write the fraction in its simplest form. So we wouldn't say 2 quarters because we know that it is equivalent to 1/2. We would always say 1/2, and that has been marked on the top of the number line. This is the same for the 1 and 2 quarters. In its simplest form, it is 1 1/2. If we were to write this one in quarters, it would be 2 and 2 quarters, but as you can see, in its simplest form, 2 1/2. The next number line is going up in tenths. So you can see along the bottom with the black markers, we have between the number 0 and 1, we have the tenths marked out, and you can see we've got 2/10, 4/10, 5/10. Filling in the gaps, this must be 1/10, this must be 3/10, this must be 7/10, and this must be 9/10. Now, in the same way as we did with the previous number line, you can then, with some of the fractions, put them in their simplest form, making their equivalents. So, for example, if we look at this one here, 4/10 is the same as 2/5, and that would be the fraction in its simplest form. So they are the same. That is the one that we would use. If I put a marker on, say here, what would this fraction be in tenths? I'll give you a couple of seconds. Hopefully you got 1 3/10. Okay, let's have a go at another one. Here, what would be the number pointing at this arrow in tenths? You should have got 1 5/10. Bonus points if you know that we can make 5/10 into 1/2. So it would be 1 1/2. So your practice sheets for today's lesson, you've got mild or hot to choose from, are just marking on particular fractions on the number lines, exactly like we have just done in the practice. So it says fill in the missing numbers in these sequences. Where possible, write fractions in their simplest forms. Write fractions in their simplest forms. So I will just show you an example for this one. If I'm trying to continue this pattern of quarters, so we have 2, 2 1/4, the fraction at this point wouldn't be 2 2/4, it would be 2 1/2, because that is the fraction in its simplest form. So I'll leave you to choose either one of those, or you can do both if you like, and then you have got your answers to self-mark. If you're a bit stuck, there's this sheet for you to work through with an adult if you can. What I would recommend you doing for this one is start with the easiest fraction. Start by marking on each half, then go on to your quarters, then your eighths. Do it in that order, and then try and fill in the numbers in the sequence, the missing numbers here. Again, answers for you to self-mark, and to end the lesson, to check your understanding, some questions here. Good luck.